Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to be looking at a catastrophic Azure VM ransomware strike from April 30, 2026, and how it was entirely neutralized. Picture this for a second. Your primary production server, which is running a hardened stack of cPanel, WordPress, and Kubernetes, is suddenly totally unresponsive. You look a little closer, and you see .protected file extensions just scattered across the file system. Honestly, it is every IT team's worst nightmare. You are fully encrypted and the clock is immediately ticking. But I actually want to start with the ending here, because this number is the exact amount of ransom paid to the attackers after this full server compromise. $0. Not a single cent. No negotiations, no back-channel crypto transfers, and absolutely no funding of criminal organizations. And it gets even better. Get this. Exactly 0 bytes of permanent production data were lost. 0 sensitive records were exposed. Seriously, for a ransomware strike of this magnitude, an outcome like that is practically unheard of. This wasn't just a basic recovery. It was a flawless, total erasure of the attacker's impact. So the obvious question we have to ask ourselves is how? How did a single AI agent compress what is traditionally a grueling, multi-day disaster recovery operation into a flawless 6-hour window? Well, we are going to reverse engineer exactly how this seemingly impossible outcome was achieved using a persistent MindStone agent, rather than relying on human operators frantically fighting the clock alone. To really understand the stakes here, listen to this verbatim excerpt from the README.txt ransom note dropped by the attackers. Now, they likely exploited critical cPanel vulnerabilities. Those were flaws later disclosed under CVE 2026-29201. The note gives a super strict 4-day countdown until public data disclosure, demanding contact via a secure messenger. It's a standard pressure tactic for sure, but the threat to the company's business continuity was incredibly real. Let's walk through the chronological tick-tock of that 6-hour sprint. It runs from the initial discovery all the way to issuing final Let's Encrypt certificates. In exactly one single working day, the MindStone agent orchestrated the triage, handled the forensic preservation, extracted the clean data, hardened a recovery server, and executed the live production cutover. There was no panicked improvisation here, just systematic, ruthless execution. And the AI agent maintained absolute checklist discipline during the restore phase. It established 3 totally non-negotiable guardrails to protect forensic evidence on the original disk. An unaided, panicked human operator might just impulsively click Replace Existing in Azure to get back online quickly, right? But that destroys vital evidence. The agent actively prevented that. It provisioned a completely new VM, locked down the network before it even booted, and injected fresh SSH keys so absolutely no compromised credentials could carry over. Then, during data extraction, the agent saved hours of human confusion by instantly catching an Azure data disk unmounting bug. After successfully pulling 11 gigabytes of clean data, a normal human might have spent half the night ripping their hair out wondering why certain application paths looked suspiciously empty. But the MindStone agent systematically ran disk checks the second it logged in, caught that a restored data disk hadn't auto-mounted, and just fixed it. 5 minutes flat. Now, moving into the hardening phase, the agent proactively caught and fixed several hidden landmines. Honestly, any one of these would have caused a massive production outage if they were only discovered during the live cutover. It tracked down stale internal IP addresses buried deep in cPanel configs, causing 502 bad gateway errors. It realized a new host firewall was about to completely wipe out Kubernetes routing tables, so it resequenced the startup order. It even caught an expired GoDaddy SSL certificate and swapped it out for Let's Encrypt. The best part? All of this was resolved before real customer traffic ever hit the server. If we break down the hard operational math, it is wild. It proves how the AI saved up to 24 hours of senior engineer time by taking on the tasks with the highest cognitive load. Right in the middle of a cyber crisis, human cognitive load is at its absolute peak, and that is precisely when expensive, devastating mistakes happen. The AI agent just absorbed all that complexity. It allowed the human operator to step back and simply focus on making the high-level approval decisions. Section 1. The brain of the agent. Inside layered continuity. Okay, so unlike a standard LLM that suffers from amnesia and needs constant reprompting, the MindStone agent already knew the Azure topology and the prior debugging history. If you've used a standard AI tool, you know the drill. Once that context window fills up, it starts forgetting what you talked about an hour ago. The MindStone agent, however, ran a continuous, uninterrupted 6-hour reasoning chain from discovery to cutover. The human operator never once had to re-explain the situation. The crucial technology making this possible is called Layered Continuity Architecture, or LCA.
LCA separates the authoritative historical transcript from the live sliding window prompt. This allows the agent to genuinely accumulate judgment over time. Think of it like this. The transcript is the permanent history of absolutely everything that happened, while the prompt is just the agent's current working memory. Because the history is never deleted to save space, the agent can always reach back into its deep memory to retrieve exactly what it needs. And instead of just doing a basic keyword search to find those memories, the agent uses something called resonance-weighted recall to surface old memories based on how critical they are to the current crisis. It doesn't just look for matching text. It looks at experiential weight. Like, did this memory prevent a mistake in the past? Is it highly relevant to my current role as an incident responder? This is exactly what allows the agent to recall a tiny, obscure detail from weeks ago that suddenly becomes the key to saving a production database today. But let's be totally clear here. The AI doesn't do this entirely alone. The agent, quite literally, has no hands. It generates the exact sequences, runs the complex audits, and writes the code, but it requires a human to actually click through the Azure portal, provide multi-factor authentication, and make those liability-bound decisions, like whether or not to notify customers. It really is the ultimate collaborative partnership. Section 2, the unsung hero, layered backups. Now we have to talk about this, because an AI agent is absolutely useless if it doesn't have a clean slate to work from. The success of this entire operation was built on a very disciplined, multi-layered backup architecture. Because the organization segmented their storage substrates, keeping the operating system far away from the sensitive customer databases and keeping the application code safely in Get, the ransomware's blast radius was contained. The AI agent succeeded because this architecture gave it the pristine, untainted materials it actually needed to rebuild. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a hard look at your own infrastructure and ask yourself a critical question about the future of your cybersecurity. When the inevitable happens and that ransom note drops on your server, how is your team going to respond? Are they going to spend 24 hours totally stressed out, sleep-deprived, and prone to making costly errors? Or are they going to be guided by a persistent agent with perfect recall, turning what could be an existential threat into just another manageable, recoverable event? It's definitely something every IT professional needs to be thinking about right now.